in Canada, trust in journalism is crumbling. It's disintegrating as government funding of the media ramps up. This is a major problem for taxpayers for a few reasons. One of them, it's a huge waste of money. Okay? This is billions of tax dollars we're talking about here. And two, maybe more importantly, it's really hard to hold a government to account if you're counting on that government for your paycheck. This brings us to journalism. It is a fundamental truth that journalists who are expected to objectively cover a government and to hold that government to account are going to be in a profound conflict of interest if they depend on that same government for their paychecks. I'll say that again more clearly. The government should not be paying journalists. Journalists should not be paid by the government because it is an obvious conflict of interest. How much money are we really talking about here? Billions. Okay, let's set the CBC aside for just a minute, okay? Because that's more than $1 billion per year. Other media companies, private corporations, newsrooms are taking taxpayers' money. The so-called media bailout was close to $600 million. That's an awful lot of money. If you work it out per reporter of the newsrooms that took the money, it works out to about $13,000 per reporter. Now let's do a thought experiment. Imagine you're a journalist. Imagine you're a journalist like me who worked on Parliament Hill within the Parliamentary Press Gallery. Picture yourself trying to hold politicians to account and trying to ask government ministers questions. Maybe uncomfortable questions, plucky questions as they're supposed to. But in your mind, you know that $13,000 of your salary depends on that guy's government. How on earth are you supposed to call that game straight? You can't. It's human nature. Because as in ethics, it's the perception of bias that erodes trust. And boy, oh boy, is that trust ever eroding fast here in Canada. There is a long-standing survey on trust. It's done every year here in Canada. They ask all sorts of questions in it. 60%, 61% of Canadians now say that they think journalists are actively trying to mislead them with statements they know to be false or gross exaggerations. Let's repeat that. A big majority, 61% of Canadians now think journalists are deliberately trying to mislead them, to tell them things that are not true. Folks, this is not about a typo or mispronouncing somebody's name or getting a date accidentally wrong. The type of things that would keep a good journalist up at night regardless. No. More than 60% of Canadians now think journalists are trying to mislead them on purpose. That's really hard to hear. I spent the majority of my adult life as a journalist. A huge chunk of that was on Parliament Hill as part of the Parliamentary Press Gallery. We were chasing down politicians, chasing them down the hallway, mics in the face, asking them tough questions, W5 questions, who, what, where, when, why. We didn't care what party was in power. We didn't care what the government even really thought of us. Could that actually be done now? If $13,000 of your paycheck depends on that government? Folks, this is the whole point of a free press. The term free press never meant that those newspapers stacked on the newsstand were free for people to grab. No, it meant the press was free from government influence and censorship. This is coming to a head right now because the government is trying to force big tech companies to pay media companies when a news link is posted. Who knows who's going to win that fight? But the solution that's being floated is sure predictable. The government, the minister in charge, Minister Pablo Rodriguez, said that we need to ensure that newsrooms stay open and that we need to make sure that they have the resources they need. In this case, we means government, and resources, you got that right, means taxpayers' money. And boy, oh boy, do we already give a ton of taxpayers' money to media organizations. Take a look at the CBC. More than $1.2 billion per year is poured from taxpayers into the CBC. They are government-funded media. If you add up what the CBC has gotten and what the rest of the media has gotten, the private media corporations over the last 4 years, it's well over $5 billion. It is a staggering amount of money. Folks, if you, it is staggering, isn't it, ma'am? So folks, if you're concerned about that amount of money, about more than $5 billion being poured into newsrooms from taxpayers, help us out. Go to our website, taxpayer.com, sign our petitions to defund the media and to free the press. That's how you can stand up and be heard.